In a fight, you need to be crazy, not smart. WeWork is not crazy enough. You know, that single piece of advice, uttered back in 2016 by one of the most powerful investors on the planet, was basically the match that lit one of the most spectacular corporate dumpster fires in modern history. Welcome to a story about the psychology of a scam, the pure delusion of a visionary, and a financial system that just willingly closed its eyes. Today, in this explainer, we're taking a real true crime investigative approach to unpack the insane rise and catastrophic fall of WeWork. Think of this as a 5-act cautionary tale. We're going to look strictly at the raw data, the leaked internal documents, and some absolutely wild quotes from the company's peak to understand how an incredibly ordinary, frankly boring real estate subletting business managed to conjure a $47 billion illusion literally out of thin air. Act 1. The Consciousness Company Myth. Okay, so to really understand how WeWork fooled the whole world, we have to go back to the beginning. From the day he founded it in 2010, Adam Neumann wasn't just trying to build a company, he was engineering a corporate cult. I mean, listen to his own words. He said, WeWork is not a space company, WeWork is a consciousness company. That right there, that was the foundational delusion. Neumann took his natural charisma and his background growing up on a kibbutz and used it to take the incredibly mundane business of renting out office desks by the month and totally wrap it in Silicon Valley messianism and New Age spirituality. He'd compare his startup to ancient tribes. He literally told his staff their valuation was based on energy and spirituality. It was an absolute masterclass in semantic disguise. And this delusion, it went all the way to the top. Adam's partner in both life and this crazy corporate mythology was his wife, Rebecca Paltrow Neumann. She was the chief brand officer, and she actually famously stated, "I think I'm a supernatural being." Seriously, she was the spiritual architect of the whole operation. She even founded WeGrow. This was a private elementary school that charged up to $42,000 a year in tuition. It had no grades, it had meditation rooms, and its explicit, stated mandate was to cultivate superhumans. Naturally, when the founders declare themselves supernatural and immune to normal business rules, the internal culture gets pretty unhinged, fast. Employees were heavily pressured to go to these mandatory multi-day summer camps where, get this, tequila shots were being poured straight from the main stage. Neumann was also known to just fire people on the spot with absolutely zero HR process, claiming they had bad energy or negative vibrations. Oh, and on the company's private Gulfstream jet, Neumann reportedly smoked marijuana on international flights. The flight crew actually once found a cereal box stuffed with it. The guy openly talked about plans to live forever and become president of the world. But, you know, a charismatic founder with delusions of grandeur is basically nothing without capital.
Act 2. The SoftBank Enablers.
All of those wild delusions were fueled by enablers who essentially poured billions of dollars of gasoline onto Adam Neumann's fire. Enter Masayoshi Son, the CEO of SoftBank Group. This is the man wielding the $100 billion Vision Fund. In late 2016, Masa-san visits a WeWork location. He spent reportedly just 12 minutes inside before deciding to back Neumann. 12 minutes? During that brief meeting, he sketches this diagram on his iPad showing exponential growth and tells Neumann to be crazier. This wasn't some deeply calculated investment thesis, right? It was a blank check. SoftBank's endorsement, which eventually piled up to $13.5 billion, created this massive social proof effect. It artificially pumped WeWork's valuation up to a staggering $47 billion by January 2019.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how they justified that astronomical $47 billion price tag. It was pure narrative fraud. See, while a SaaS software company might trade at, 15 to 40 times their revenue, traditional real estate usually trades at a mere 6 to 10 times the value of its physical assets. So what did Neumann do? He relentlessly told investors, WeWork is not a real estate company. WeWork is a technology platform. By just pretending to be a tech company, WeWork claimed a multiple of roughly 26 times their revenue. But the stark reality was they had terrible gross margins and were entirely asset-backed. They were literally a landlord dressed up in tech company clothing.
Act 3. The S1 Filing Meltdown.
Now, this whole charade could only last as long as the company stayed private. And in August 2019, the music abruptly stopped. When WeWork filed their mandatory S1 registration document to go public, the veil was instantly lifted. Behind all those lofty claims of elevating the world's consciousness was a crushing financial reality. Just look at 2018. WeWork suffered a net loss of $1.93 billion. To put that into perspective, they were essentially losing more than $1 for every single dollar they brought in. They were burning cash at an annualized rate of around $4 billion. The company was on a high-speed, unavoidable collision course with insolvency.
And this brilliantly illustrates the other bombshell hidden in the S1, a staggering catalog of self-dealing. Okay, so Adam Neumann had secretly trademarked the word "we" through a personal entity. He then turned around and sold that trademark back to his own company for $5.9 million. He also personally owned stakes in buildings that he then leased back to WeWork, funneling hundreds of millions right into his own pockets. And it gets worse. While ordinary employees had their shares locked up, Neumann was quietly selling off over $700 million of his own stock.
So how do you hide all this massive, gaping unprofitability? Well, WeWork simply invented their own accounting metric. They called it community-adjusted EBITDA. Say that 3 times fast. This was a completely proprietary, completely fabricated metric engineered to present a picture of profitability that quite literally defied every single standard accounting framework on planet Earth. And what exactly did community-adjusted EBITDA exclude? It excluded rent, building operating expenses, and growth investments. Let that sink in for a second. A real estate company created a metric to measure its own financial success that completely ignored the cost of rent and the cost of operating its buildings. Wall Street analysts later called this one of the most brazen accounting manipulations in modern corporate history.
Act 4, the road to bankruptcy.
The backlash to that S1 was swift, and it was merciless. Within weeks, the IPO was completely withdrawn, Neumann was forced out, and this grim, inevitable unraveling began. Following the withdrawn IPO in late 2019, the company started mass layoffs, instantly cutting 20% of its workforce. Then, in March 2020, COVID-19 hits, and it exposes WeWork's fatal flaw, the lease trap. See, WeWork owed landlords $47 billion in long-term fixed rent over average 15-year leases. But their members, well, they could cancel their flexible short-term memberships with almost zero notice. WeWork was bleeding cash with absolutely no way to stop it. By August 2023, the stock had totally collapsed, dropping by 99% and trading for just pennies. In November 2023, WeWork officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Act 5, the billion-dollar walkaway.
So the crucial point here, and honestly the deeply cynical epilogue to this entire financial tragedy, is how it ended for the founder. The company was destroyed. SoftBank took a historic, humiliating loss. Thousands of regular, everyday employees saw their hard-earned stock options turn to absolute dust. Yet, when Adam Neumann was forced out in October 2019, SoftBank engineered a rescue package that gave him a golden parachute of approximately $1.7 billion. $1.7 billion. He walked away with a massive generational fortune for driving a company right off the cliff into insolvency. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to close out this explainer. If a charismatic founder can disguise an ordinary real estate gig as a technology consciousness movement, burn through billions and billions of dollars, orchestrate massive self-dealing, lay off thousands of everyday workers, and still walk away a billionaire, what does that actually say about the mechanics of modern venture capital? Was Adam Neumann a total anomaly, or did he just play a fundamentally broken system perfectly? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this analysis.